Europe is finally going on the offensive. At this very moment, mega weapons are being deployed. The Allies are holding hands tightly. In the sky, a network of drones, radars, and modern interception systems is shooting down Russian attacks before they even get close. Putin is already getting nervous, Shaheds are becoming ineffective, and ballistic missiles are falling on the heads of Russians. It has begun. Kremlin is in turmoil, and the strategic initiative is shifting to Kyiv. All the details about this, don't miss what's next.
After a series of Russian drone incursions into the airspace of European countries, it became clear that the old air defense systems can no longer cope. These cheap drones flying in swarms break through conventional defense schemes and deplete the stocks of expensive missiles and combat aircraft. This very challenge became the impetus for the European Union's ambitious drone wall initiative.
Almost all countries, whether from the region, be it Eastern, Northern, or Western Europe, have encountered such manifestations. Of this new type of hybrid actions by the Russian Federation in the sky, violating airspace, and the fact that a response is needed is already undeniable.
The idea is to create a unified defense system along the eastern border of the EU, where sensors, radars, satellites, interceptors, and artificial intelligence will be able to detect, classify, and neutralize threats in real time.
We need to create a European system that will enable Europe to develop advanced drone solutions, drawing inspiration from what is already being done in Ukraine.
It is Ukraine that plays a key role in this development. 4 years of war have made Ukrainian experience critically valuable. Here, tactics are tested, technologies are refined, and production chains for combat and counter-drone systems are established. All of this happens in combat conditions, not on a training ground.
Now, drones have changed absolutely everything, and the best drone experts in the world are Ukrainians. I've seen videos of situations where a swarm of drones goes up against a single soldier. Even a single drone can lure a soldier into a trap while another attacks him from the other side. So we're already seeing how drones are becoming increasingly deadly. This will change the way wars are fought in every country. It's not just about drones, but also about how to protect your roads, how to secure your airports. How do you prevent drones from invading your territory? That's why Europe needs to quickly learn from Ukrainians how to defend its skies.
Ukraine offers not only experience but also an industrial base. Local manufacturers such as TechX can supply equipment, train operators, share combat experience, and standardize solutions to meet Europe's needs. The integration of Ukrainian technologies and expertise will make it possible to create adaptive, fast, and cost-effective systems, capable of operating in real combat time. Funding is already being processed through the SAFE instrument and the EU defense budget, which allocates up to 100 billion euros for the eastern flank. The drone wall plan includes 3 directions: drone, land, and maritime lines of defense, which should be integrated into a single system. It will be able to control the airspace from the Baltic to the Black Sea.
Judging by the information and news we read from different countries, self-determination is currently at the stage of either being found or forming a consensus between the internal situations in each individual country, which may require changes in legislation, and how this will later be addressed at a common, collective level. That is, in order to reach a common level, a unified position at the level of European Union countries and NATO countries. It is necessary to reach an agreement within each country, understanding that in some places this will require changes to legislation, while elsewhere it will require more thorough explanations to society so that the actions are clear, there is support, and there is understanding, which is important for countries where democracy exists. Thank you. A constant electoral process where any step can be used by the opposition.
This project is part of a larger strategy called SHY 2030. These are 4 initiatives aimed at strengthening the EU's external corridors, protecting against drones, creating a joint air defense system, and even providing space services for military needs. The main goal is to deter Russia and Belarus, especially considering that by 2030, the capabilities of the Russian armed forces may increase. The plan is to strengthen the eastern border by the end of 2026 and to deploy a drone defense wall by 2027. At the same time, the EU is creating an integrated air defense system. Space-based intelligence, communication, and navigation services will support defense tasks. However, experts warn that bureaucracy and slow processes in Europe could delay the project. But if Europe can quickly establish this cooperation, the Shield 2030 could become a new line of defense, which will protect not only EU countries, but also Ukraine.
Poland is urgently making a move that changes the entire balance of power. Warsaw is switching to full defense mode and throwing everything it can into the game to strengthen Ukraine. New batches of equipment are heading to the border without any pauses, warehouses are shipping secret cargoes around the clock, and military factories are shifting into overdrive. There is panic in the Kremlin. Poland is showing a resolve that Moscow did not expect. What surprises the ally keeping in reserve? And why could it be a shock for the Russian command? More on this ahead.
The Kremlin is expanding the geography of the war. Europe and NATO are preparing for a possible invasion by the Russian dictator.
This needs to be done subtly, carefully, but it absolutely must be done.
Drones are increasingly violating the airspace of European countries. Such incidents have been recorded in Denmark, Norway, Romania, and Poland. In this way, the Kremlin is increasing pressure on Europe through hybrid attacks and preparations for a large-scale conflict. Poland remains the primary country at risk. The strike on September 10th is a deliberate, carefully planned Russian strategy.
Poland is currently one of the priorities for the Russian Federation. One of them, not the only one, but one of them. Why? Because a large amount of military cargo is transported through Polish territory toward Ukraine to the Ukrainian fronts. And Russia understands perfectly well that if this route is cut off, Ukraine will be left isolated and the logistics will be disrupted. Cut off, it would have to be rebuilt, and at that point they could actually achieve some territorial gains. And
in the event of an invasion of Poland, Russia could prepare a force of 100,000 to 150,000 troops to carry out the Suwałki corridor scenario.
At the moment, up to 40,000 troops have been directly redeployed to the borders from the Republic of Belarus. The Polish military is conducting similar actions in Ukraine on the territory of the Baltic states. In addition, at the moment, a naval component of joint NATO exercises is taking place in the Baltic Sea.
There are also increasing reports that Russia may attack the Baltic countries. Since the beginning of the Great War in Ukraine, Russian military forces have increased the number of provocations in the Baltic region.
currently, it is clear that the Russian Federation does not have the forces for a full-scale invasion, as was done in Ukraine. Although our military notes that over the past 8 months, there has indeed been a steady monthly decrease in the amount of Russian equipment destroyed on the front lines. In other words, the graphs keep going lower and lower, starting from January, February, specifically for 3 types of armed forces: anti-tank defense assets, tanks, and IFVs. So, there's a lot of room here for speculation. Why? Either they have started producing fewer tanks and IFVs, or they are producing them, but hiding them somewhere in reserve for some other purposes.
Another pretext to start a war is the Estonian city of Narva. It is located in the east of the country. A small river separates it from Russia. Even today, in the narratives of Kremlin propaganda, Narva is portrayed as a city where Estonians actively humiliate Russians.
These are roughly 200 to 300 riflemen from the mountains who could infiltrate the settlement, hypothetically Narva, and carry out the same scenario there as they did in Crimea, as they did in Donetsk. They seize the post office, the telephone exchange, the telegraph, the mayor's office, and declare the creation of some kind of People's Republic, and then ask Putin to send in troops. The scenario is very realistic.
Only in Russia, everyone is shouting from all sides that they don't want a war with Europe or NATO. Also, former President Medvedev, who is known for his drinking, claims that Russia has supposedly always come to Europe as a liberator, not as an invader. And Putin's notorious spokesperson Maria Zakharova has started accusing Ukraine of preparing an anti-Russian provocation. Supposedly, Russian drones are being used in Poland and Romania to push NATO into a war against Russia.
This story came from the Russian Federation's Foreign Intelligence Service. I saw it yesterday. It's a very funny story. I'll explain why it's funny. The Russian Federation's Foreign Intelligence Service is a paper tiger. Actually, it's not even a paper tiger, it's a paper bear. This organization isn't even respected within the Russian security hierarchy. No one counts them, No one fears them, and even ordinary police officers don't see them as authoritative. And all that's left for this service is to come up with, to generate some random ideas, random conspiracies, just to show that their work matters.
In response to Russia's threats, NATO and EU countries are urgently strengthening their defenses, building a drone wall, and discussing providing Ukraine with air defense systems to create a shield. After Russia violated Polish airspace, NATO launched Operation Eastern Guard. Denmark has called up several hundred reservists. Soldiers have been ordered to report as soon as possible. At
the moment, air units are being redeployed to the territory of Poland and Romania. These are NATO's flanks. In addition, there is a redeployment of accompanying NATO country units to the territory of the Baltic states. Naval exercises are being conducted in the Baltic Sea area. It is confirmed that new US aircraft carriers are currently in Danish waters. And this is a serious signal to the Russian Federation. In addition, French Rafale jets have been deployed to Poland, and these are nuclear-capable aircraft.
In fact, Russia began threatening NATO as far back as 10 years ago. At that time, Turkey, led by Erdogan, was in the crosshairs. Back in 2015, a Russian bomber violated the country's airspace. According to Turkish authorities, the Russian aircraft did not respond to warnings before it was shot down by an F-16 fighter jet.
Now, Putin's strategic goal is the collapse of the collective West and the undermining of trust among NATO members.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Urgent geopolitical lightning has struck the Kremlin. Kazakhstan is abruptly changing course and no longer plays by Moscow's rules. Astana is rapidly stepping out of Russia's shadow and forming its own center of power. Tokayev is betting not on Putin but on the global heavyweights. The meeting at the White House became the point of no return. A new player has appeared on the map of influence, one who now speaks to the Kremlin without fear or deference. Is Kazakhstan ready to take a step towards Ukraine in the near future? We'll find out in just a moment. Kazakhstan, once friendly to Putin, is supplying weapons to Ukraine. The former head of the Romanian National Environmental Guard, Octavian Berceanu, claims that he was offered 10 million euros for a deal involving the import of ammunition from Kazakhstan. The Russian-made ammunition was allegedly going to be repainted and sold to Europe for
If there is a political necessity, Kazakhstan will provide its own territory for important official diplomatic meetings at the level of heads of state.
According to Berceanu, he reported the offer to the criminal prosecution authorities and the National Anti-Corruption Directorate. At the same time, there was allegedly talk of another matter, the opening of a weapons or ammunition factory on Romanian territory.
At the moment, it should be noted that Kazakhstan has chosen a strategy of maneuvering between the interests of its key political partners. These are, first and foremost, the United States, Russia, and China. It should be noted that despite the fact that Kazakhstan is a CSTO country, and moreover the Tokayev regime actually came to power thanks to Russian bayonets, at present Kazakhstan is pursuing a policy that is practically independent from the Russian Federation.
Meanwhile, following the results of the Central Asia-US Summit, Kazakhstan signed agreements worth $17 billion.
We're talking about rare earth metals, primarily tungsten. In addition, agreements were signed on cooperation in the field of IT technologies and a possible memorandum on the sale of 30 Boeing aircraft.
The president of Kazakhstan believes that the current US administration has a greater understanding of the importance of Central Asia, and he noted Trump for his more conciliatory approach toward Russia. At the same time, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev calls a ceasefire in Ukraine possible. He even praised Putin for his flexibility. Kazakhstan.
This country was actually the first member nation within the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OPEC, to take the step of increasing its oil production, even though there was strong and persistent opposition from the Russian state at the time. Kazakhstan is a country located in Central Asia. It is one of the largest countries in the world by land area, and its capital city is Astana.
Is trying to maintain relations with both Russia and the United States, taking a tactic of keeping silent about the war. But at the same time, it does not support our country at the same level as other European partners who consistently send aid packages to Ukraine,